bionic Khan, I probably got the whole thing wrong, having said it's easy, wants to revenge himself on Captain Kirk and the Star Trek crew, and in trying to repair the Starship Enterprise's engines so that they can escape, Spock bravely enters a radiation zone and is killed, right?
I'm not really sure.
You don't know whether you're you don't know whether you're dead.
No.
Okay.
You're moving a little too fast for me.
No. Well,
you don't want to do that again, do you?
Anyway, there's a sort of bomb called Genesis, which has the power to create new life on barren worlds.
No,
but it can also...
Yes, as carefully as I can.
There'll be a test.
I was not making notes, you see.
We'll have a little
When you were
quiz
making
later
the
on.
film or now?
Anyway, this bomb goes off, doesn't it? And
Which bomb?
Genesis.
Oh, the
isn't it?
Genesis bomb, yes.
Yeah. And it can do nasty things to people who are already alive.
Oh, yes, it can be very destructive or creative.
Then Spock's coffin is catapulted to a brand new planet, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. But the great question is whether it's going to be regenerated in time for Star Trek 3. Richard Evans, you've seen the film. Is that sort of accurate?
Yes, well, not being an intellectual, I didn't really understand it either, but I think that the door is left wide open for Spock to come back, without a doubt.
I would say that's probably true.
But I think that the whole thing about the Star Trek movies and the TV thing is not really the plot. It's just the fact that it is Star Trek that makes it watchable and makes it the cult.
You're a cult. You're a groupie, aren't you, Bernard Falk? Are you a Trekkie?
Yeah, I'm into Rabbit and Landa and Vera Lynn. I've never seen myself as a Trekkie, although I'm fascinated, having explored the psyche of Trekkies, about this extraordinary series. To recap, Leonard Nimoy is a distinguished actor. He made 100 appearances in TV dramas and on stage before he took this remarkable part of playing a half-human, half-Vulcan with pointed ears and a pudding basin haircut. And in fact, Leonard, it was only a 3-year gig as far as you were concerned.
That was a long one for me.
Was it?
I hadn't had a job. When I took that job, I hadn't had a job that lasted longer than 2 weeks. Obviously, I wasn't a very good actor.
You were just wearing the wrong kind of ear.
Or you were a train driver. No, you must understand. Doing particularly television work in the States, a job would last anywhere from 3 or 4 or 5 days to a week or two at the most at that time, in the early 60s when I was jobbing around.
But it seems that
3 years was a long run.
it just seems that it's been with us for so long.
Well, it has. It's been 16 years.
That's right, but in fact, as far as you were concerned, it was only between 1966 and 1968
yeah.
that you played the part.
Yeah.
And you wrote a book called I Am Not Spock.
Yeah.
Why did you write it?
Well, it was really, it was a collection of stories which were answers to questions that had been asked, like the one you just asked me.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's all right. It's all right. I don't mind talking about it. I enjoy it. But I reached the point where I had been publishing some other writings, and I thought, I've been answering these questions for so long, and I've developed so many stories, maybe I'll put them down and publish the answers.
But what did Spock do to you? Were you in a way...
You must understand, excuse me, I think the track that we're on suggests that the title is a negative title and a disowning or kind of disassociation kind of title. That wasn't really the case. It was really a question of exploring the two different identities involved. And I'll give you an example that I used in the book. I was in an airport where a lady with a small child approached me and stopped me, and she said to the child, "Johnny, look who's here." And the little boy looked at me, and there was no look of recognition at all. And she said, "Don't you recognize this man?" And he looked at me and had this vague look on his face. And she said, that's your favorite. You watch him on television every week." And he continued to stare, and there was no sign of recognition. And finally she said, "That's Mr. Spock." And still no recognition.
Yeah.
Now, he was really saying, no, that's not Mr. Spock. And he was right, you see, because standing in front of him was this guy with glasses and strange, typical street clothes, and standing in a contemporary airport in a contemporary city, not on television, not made up with the ears and the haircut and the costume and so forth. He understood the difference, you see. Perhaps she didn't. I'm not sure.
What did the part
We may run into some Klingons out there. That's
Well, you've got your gamma ray gun to zap them. See, that's the nice thing of it. What did the part do for you? Did it in any way degrade your art as an actor?
No, I don't think so. It gave me enormous public exposure and opportunity. Enormous opportunity. I have not been out of work since the show went on the air.
But always in that character, though, or talking
No,
about
not
it?
remotely.
No.
He played on Broadway in Equus, and you've just finished a series which has been seen in America on Marco Polo.
Yes.
But one of the things which I discovered about you when I started reading, which interested me, was the fact that you're also a poet and an author, and like Carol Burnett, a photographer.
I don't know if I'm really a poet. You know, to me, a poet is a person who lives the life. As a poet has a certain kind of lifestyle that goes with the writing. I'm not really a poet in that sense. I have written some poetry, but I don't know if it's fair to call myself a poet.
What are the things which...
Romantic poetry. It's about my personal feelings, about people I love, and things I care about.
What kind of people are they?
My wife, for example.
Yes.
Nice people. Good people.
I can't stand that Captain Kirk.
Why?
Well, he's so good and righteous and he wins all the time.
And he's always the same age. He never gets any older.
You can't imagine him
Neither do you.
swearing
No, as a
or
matter of
spitting
fact,
or doing
in
anything.
Star Trek 2, he has a midlife crisis.
Don't we all?
I don't know if we all do, speak for yourself, but he certainly does.
But just to give you an idea of how big a cult it became, there's a famous story about a guy who was charged with a whole wide variety of horrendous offences in America, pleaded guilty to 126 cases of robbery and all the rest of it. And just before they sentenced him, the judge says, "Have you anything to say?" And he was standing in the dock and he opened up a cigarette case, spoke into it and said, "Beam me up, Scott." And quick.
Is that true?
That's true. Well, if it isn't true, it's a good story.
Carol Burnett, are you a fan of this kind of thing?
Oh, definitely, yes. I wanted to ask Leonard. I had read or heard, and I don't know if you had talked about it or about how you got out of doing all the physical fighting on the show.
And I said, now, Vulcans don't have to do that. Vulcans have a much more sophisticated way of rendering a person unconscious. You know, the director said, "What do you have in mind?" And I just kind of pinched the guy on the neck, and he stiffened up and dropped unconscious, and that established the Spock neck pinch. It made it possible for me to avoid a lot of physical activity for 3 years.
Invented a new martial art.
Vulcans don't fight.
Just try and be nice to that Scotty, who's a charming man. On the
I like
series.
Scotty a lot.
Better.
It's Dr. McCoy I can't get along with.